Alright, so Black Myth Wukong is my most anticipated game of the year, and boy does it not disappoint. The combat is incredibly fun, it is very fluid, it is not a spammy action game. It finds a nice, perfect blend between a soul and an action game like God of War, and I think it's a great balance between the two. It is not a soul game where it's incredibly hard, so don't worry about that. The action is very nice and very fluid, so you're constantly in motion and fighting. And there is a dodge, but you are not able to block. There is no block. There's just a lot of dodging. And the dodging feels great. The combat feels great. Every impact that you hit with the staff feels incredible. The sound effect for each hit sounds incredible as well, especially when you land a heavy attack. So before I continue to gush over the game, the PC port is actually pretty good in general. Again, it's going to be dependent on your system. On my system, which is in the description, if you're curious, it runs really well. No hiccups or anything, stutters or anything like that. So if you're playing it, make sure to just adjust the settings to your spec, and you should be good. Overall, the optimization is not bad. In terms of ultra-wide user, well, just like the benchmark tool, the game does support out of the box 21 by 9, pretty much in everything, cutscenes, menus, and UI and all that. But if you're playing on anything larger, like a 32 by 9, there will be slight black bars on the side. However, there is a temporary fix right now that will remove that black bar. I'll put the file in the description. So if you're using a 32 by 9, test it out and see how that works for you. As for the graphical setting, everything is pretty much the same from the benchmark tool. There is still no HDR implemented at the moment. Hopefully with the new driver, there will be it will be available to be able to enable it in RTX HDR if you have a card that supports it. As of right now, no HDR, which is a huge bummer because this game is absolutely gorgeous. Control-wise, the mouse and keyboard works okay. There's a couple of questionable choices in terms of the keybind that they have on default. You're able to rebind everything, but unfortunately, you're not able to bind anything to your mouse button. So that is kind of wrong because I used one of the mouse button to dodge, and now I am having to force to use it on one of the key, which is a little bit awkward. Like I said, there's two keys, which is kind of like the dodge that is tied to the space bar. Normally I use that for jumping, but like I said, there's two keys that's pretty questionable. Other than that, everything works really well on the mouse and keyboard. Just can't bind it to the mouse key. Switching over to the controller, both the PS5 and Xbox One works just fine. The rumble and everything works just fine. So if you prefer a controller when it comes to action, you can play it on controller. Both the PS5 and Xbox are supported. Now back to my early impression of the game. Heading into it, I was a little bit worried that it was only a boss rush type of game, but rest assured that it doesn't feel that way when you're playing it, because in between there are trash mobs that you will be fighting. Now the game is spread out into zones. It's a pretty linear game. There's not much ways to deviate, but there are some branching path here and there, but just don't expect anything major. It is a pretty linear game. There are just zones. You go from zone to zone. The nice thing about it is that the zones are fairly large. There is no loading in between the zones, so you're just going from zone to zone. I don't believe I remember any loading going between them. The only time you're loading is if you're fast traveling between the shrine, but other than that, they're just zone that you just go from zone to zone after you defeat a boss. So it is not an open world, obviously. Now, this game is performing incredibly well on Steam. I was shocked when I saw the number of concurrent player on Steam. I know Journey to the West is a very popular novel in China. I kind of grew up with Journey to the West as well. It's part of my childhood, along with X-Men. But yeah, it's if you've never read or even aware of Journey to the West, I do recommend to watch maybe a 5-10 minute breakdown of just the basic story, so that way you have an idea going into it, as opposed to just going in completely blind. Although I do see you have to, I do see even from the early impression that you might have to play at least a couple of times to kind of get the story down, because right now it might just be a bit confusing right when you jump in terms of the plot, the explanation of some of the names and characters and something like that might be a little confusing, but I do see you having to play at least 2 or 3 times just to be able to get the story down and the names of all the characters and the lore and stuff like that. So yeah, it is very interesting mythology, Chinese mythology. If you're looking for something new and fresh, I highly recommend this game. It's definitely worth it, even at the full price. Alright, so that will do it for my early impression of Black Myth Wukong. I am heading back to playing it. I already took a couple of days off to play this game. So, yep, that's what I'm going to do. And like always, I appreciate you guys watching this far, and I will see y'all in the next video. Take care for now. Bye.